Welcome back to CloudOps Lab. This is episode 3 of the DevOps Foundation series. In episode 2, we looked at how a GitHub Actions pipeline checks code automatically. Now we need to answer the next question. What should the pipeline build? For many modern DevOps teams, the answer is a Docker image. Docker helps package an application with the runtime and instructions needed to run it consistently. The main problem Docker solves is the classic sentence, "It works on my machine." Without containers, one developer might use one version of Node, another might use a different version. Staging might have different system packages, and production might behave differently again. Docker gives you a more repeatable unit of software. Instead of only saying, "Here is my code," you say, "Here is my application image." It includes the app, the runtime, and the startup command. The heart of Dockerizing an app is a file called Docker file. A Docker file is a recipe for building an image. It tells Docker what base image to start from, what files to copy, what dependencies to install, and what command to run when the container starts. Let us walk through the mental model. The first line usually starts with from. This chooses the base image. For a Node app, that might be Node:20 Alpine. For Python, it might be Python:3.12 Slim. The base image matters because it becomes the foundation of your application environment. Next, you usually set a working directory with workdir. This tells Docker where commands should run inside the image. Then you copy dependency files first. For a Node app, you might copy package.json and packagelock.json. Then you run npm-ci. Why copy dependency files before the rest of the source code? Because Docker builds in layers. If your dependencies do not change, Docker can reuse the dependency layer and make future builds faster. After dependencies are installed, you copy the application source code. Then you might run a build command, especially for front-end apps or TypeScript projects. Finally, you define the command that starts the application. In Docker, this is often cmd. For example, a Node API might start with npm start. A Python web app might start with gunicorn. A static app might be served by a lightweight web server. Once you have a Docker file, you can build the image. The command looks like docker build -t app:/local . The -t option gives the image a tag. The dot means Docker should use the current folder as the build context. After building, you can run the container. A common command is docker run -p 8000:8000 app:/local. Port mapping matters. The app might listen on port 8000 inside the container, and you map that to port 8000 on your machine so your browser can reach it. At this point, your application is no longer just code on a laptop. It is packaged as a container image. That image can be used by your CI pipeline, pushed to a registry, deployed to a virtual machine, or run in Kubernetes. This is why Docker connects so naturally with CI/CD. The pipeline can run tests, build the Docker image, tag it with the commit SHA, and push it to a registry. Then deployment systems can pull that image and run it. Now let us cover a few beginner mistakes.
Mistake 1 is copying everything into the image. Use a Docker ignore file to exclude things like Node modules, local environment files, logs, build output, and Git folders. Mistake 2 is putting secrets into the image. Never bake API keys, passwords, or cloud credentials into a Docker image. Use environment variables, secret managers, or platform-level secret injection. Mistake 3 is running as root when you do not need to. For production images, it is safer to run the application as a non-root user where possible. Mistake 4 is using huge base images. Smaller images usually build faster, pull faster, and reduce unnecessary attack surface. Slim or alpine images can help, but always test compatibility. Mistake 5 is not checking container health. A container that starts is not always a healthy application. Real deployments need health checks and logs. Here is a practical Dockerizing checklist. Create a Docker file. Choose the right base image. Set a working directory. Copy dependency files first. Install dependencies. Copy the source code. Build the app if needed. Expose the application port. Set the startup command. Add a .docker ignore file. Build the image locally. Run the container locally. Then add the build step to your CI pipeline. This is the point where DevOps starts to feel connected. Git stores the code. GitHub Actions checks the code. Docker packages the code. A registry stores the image. A deployment platform runs the image. That is the chain you are building. In the next episode, we will take this container mindset into the cloud and look at how deployment works on AWS. If you want the sample Docker file and .docker ignore template, subscribe to CloudOps Lab and comment Docker. Docker is not magic. It is just a repeatable package for your application. Once you understand that, containers become much less intimidating.